Yep. You want to come and visit on the camera? What? I can't hear that. And good morning. Happy August 25th. It's Tuesday. Hope everybody's well this morning. It's chaos in the studio this morning. We have guests, the hosts, Pat, Emily over there. We got Lisa over here with talking about cooking. Catherine's on the camera. Wendy's standing by if my guest stiffs me. There's a lot going on this morning. It's very distracting for the talent. But I will soldier on and do the best I can despite the challenges that are being thrown my way. So it's a beautiful day today. It's warm. So if you're going to go outside, better to go outside on the earlier side than later. There's always the chance of thunderstorms on days like this in the afternoon. But you're talking about a 90-degree day, a typical hot summer day in New York. So if you can get out early, do it. And if you can look out and enjoy the beauty of it, pay attention to the bird feeders. Wendy helped to install. We got, I think, 10 of them now, Wendy. And it's craziness. Birds everywhere, enjoying their feeders and knocking each other over to get to the feeders, and squirrels trying to climb into them. There's a lot going on the lawn. It's a very busy lawn. So that's the weather and my view of the lawn. We have one birthday today. We have a Nathaniel S.'s birthday today. So a very happy birthday to Nathaniel. I hope it's a wonderful day for you on August 25th, 2020. Enjoy it. Be well. Maybe a good year, and hopefully when next year runs around, it will not be a COVID birthday. Everybody's sort of getting their turn. It's people born in March, had to have a birthday in COVID, then happened to people in April, May, June. Wendy and I are in June. Everybody's sort of having a turn at a COVID birthday, which is not a traditional birthday. It's got to blow out the candles with a mask on, and from what I hear, there's not going to be a lot of blowing out candles in the future anymore, which will take away some of the fun. Maybe we'll have to have personal cakes, and you can blow out your own candle on your own personal cake or something, but that's for another day. In terms of this date in history, 1944, Paris was liberated today from the Germans. So a very significant day for many of our veterans and people who live in the home who dedicated their lives to protect this country and protect the world as we knew it at the time, a world that's more complicated all the time. But this date in 1944, Paris was declared free from the Germans. So a very significant day in history. 2005, Katrina. Katrina was one of the worst hurricane storms that we saw in our generation, where it flooded New Orleans and did all kinds of things. That was in 2005 that took place today. So significant things this date in history. I see my guest is arriving, so that's good news. I have one other news story. Oh, and on a sad note, in 2009, Senator Kennedy died today. Senator Ed Kennedy passed away in 2009. Senator Kennedy, who was somebody who visited the Hebrew home on 2 different occasions. As the story goes in Hebrew home lore, he was here to dedicate the same building twice. He said as he was on the dais, wasn't I here to dedicate this building once before? And in fact, long story short, he was here twice for the same building. But he was a big supporter of the home through his relationship with our former president, Milton Gilbert, and Senator Kennedy was a friend of the home, and somebody whose pictures you'll find, I think in the historical parts of the home where we have the 100th anniversary, I think there's Senator Kennedy pictures. Wendy's nodding her head, so that must be yes. Today's lunch. I wake up thinking about lunch and dinner, so let's get right to it. No bologna. Actually, it is bologna. Did you read my notes? Well, I was about to say, of course it's not bologna. It is bologna. That's bologna. Yes, today is bologna. And those of you who like bologna, I'm sorry. I happen to like bologna. It has to be very thin. And don't be nervous. It's going to be a very gentle show for you. Bologna on a roll, That's lunch. There's a little roasted cauliflower soup. I don't know how that goes with bologna or not, but what do I know? Applesauce. Of course, you could have alternates, chicken or something like that. Do you like bologna, Ann?
Not really.
Is your mic on? Good. Yeah, well, you don't have to have bologna today, but it is available.
Thank you very much.
And dinner tonight will not be bologna. It seems to go hand in hand. When there's bologna, it's the stuffed sole Florentine. They seem to go hand in hand like they're partners of some kind. I'm not sure what the connections are of any of these things. What's it?
Surf and turf.
The surf and turf. So potato corn chowder soup, which I think, Wendy, you like that, right? That's a favorite of yours. And stuffed sole Florentine ratatouille. Anybody spell ratatouille, I'm willing to give a prize. So if anybody in the studio can spell ratatouille, I'm going to give you a $25 gift card. Lisa, want to try?
Ratatouille?
Yeah.
Ratouille.
You won $25. Wow. I'm trying to make it seem hard. You could at least struggled. It's like the spelling bee. The kid from Texas who's 9 is like, hey, you know, they struggle a bit.
I'll play it up a little bit.
All right, well, I owe you. That'll be paid up today. And then dessert is Jell-O, and I can spell Jell-O. That's an easy one, so no prizes for that. So that concludes the structured program. And now we have a great treat for us to invite Anne Marie Hennessy to join us.
Thank you.
On set. Nervous?
No, I'm fine.
Good. So Anne Marie and I have worked together for many years.
Yes, we have.
And Anne, as I like to sort of share the responsibilities that guests have at the home, maybe you could walk us through the progression of responsibilities you've had, because you know, you're one of those great stories at the Hebrew home where somebody comes in who's very talented and well qualified, and they have lots of opportunities, and your job has changed multiple times, as some of ours have, but I think your journey's kind of interesting. Maybe you could tell us how you came in and talk to...
Sure. Well, good morning, everyone. So I started the Hebrew home back in September 8th of 1992. It's almost 28 years. And I started as what would be considered the head nurse on RP6.
So you're a nursing graduate. You went to school at Mount St. Vincent.
Yes.
You got your master's in nursing from there.
Yes, I got my bachelor's and my master's in nursing from the College of Mount St. Vincent back in '92, and I was at a crossroads. Interesting enough, I had an opportunity to join the Hebrew home team or Loeb and Troper. So I had 2 job opportunities.
I'm not sure people know what Loeb and Troper is. So.
It's a consulting firm.
Which has a different name now, but they do healthcare consulting.
Yes.
People. Before you leave Mount St. Vincent, you're right next door. Mm-hmm. Did you know the Hebrew home when you were there?
I knew it existed. I really didn't know much about the Hebrew home.
How funny, right, that you spent your education literally 100 yards away from where you ended up working for 28 years. So you've been in this area for 32 years. You've been in this block.
Yes, I didn't go too far.
Okay.
I stayed close to home.
Well, that's good for us. But so tell us how that evolved. So you had a chance, Loeb and Troper or Hebrew home.
And I decided to pick Hebrew home because at the time my daughter was 3 years old, and I chose, I didn't want to do all that travel.
This is Laura we're talking about.
This is Laura, my daughter who's now 30.
And Laura, who recently had a celebration of, do you want to share what?
In September, she'll be a year married. So she got married in Ireland a year ago. So thank God it was last year, because if it was this year, it'd be a whole different story.
And we like to think that our families will watch us on YouTube later, so maybe you could mention your son-in-law's name so when he watches it.
And my son-in-law is Andrew Pinedo, and he's a lovely fellow, nice guy. Some days I think he's too nice for her, but that's okay.
Okay, so when Laura's watching this, she won't be happy, but he'll be happy.
No, it's okay, because Laura knows my sense of humor, so it's all well and good.
Okay, so you have 3 daughters. That's Laura.
I have Laura. I have Johanna, who is 24, and she'll get her doctorate in physical therapy next year from the University of Scranton.
Will she be looking for jobs around
in the
this
Philadelphia
area? Oh, the Philadelphia area, okay.
Yes. And I have my youngest child, Olivia, who is be 14 in October, and she's going to Sacred Heart High School in Yonkers, starting in September.
Which is where you went?
No, I went to Mount St. Ursula in the Bronx.
Oh, okay. Great.
I didn't go too far, as your viewers can say.
So you put a pin in the map.
Hebrew home, Bedford Park, didn't go too far. I stayed local.
So back to the job choice you had to make. You had to choose between Hebrew home and Loeb and Troper.
So I chose Hebrew home, and I'm very grateful, never regret it. It's been a great opportunity to expand and to grow and to learn and to meet fabulous people. And I had the opportunity to be the head nurse on RP6, and then I had the opportunity to work with David for 10 years after that in adult daycare. We opened many programs. Unfortunately, we did everything in one day, remember?
Sure, I do remember.
Oh, yeah.
So was nursing a goal of yours as a as a young child? Is that the path you were always on? When you got to school, did you decide to do nursing? When did nursing become the focus for you?
It's very interesting because my parents are first-generation immigrants from Ireland, so it was a very different upbringing than maybe. I actually always wanted to be a physician. I really wanted to be a medical examiner, believe it or not.
Were you watching Quincy or something?
Yes, absolutely. I love Quincy.
For those of you, that was the Jack Klugman show where he was the medical examiner.
But coming from very practical, my mother gave me very sound advice because at the time, it was difficult with medical school. To become a nurse is something you'll always have, is always something you can grow in and evolve. And I chose to take her advice, and that's the path I journeyed on.
It's interesting when you watch shows and it gives you the pathway. If you had watched Alice, you would have wanted to be
a waitress.
So
Thank
it's a good thing you watched Quincy.
I'm still a waitress at home.
Okay, well, so you come here, you're a nurse in RP6, you go to adult daycare.
And then in 2005, I got my master's in business administration from Iona. So at that juncture, I was given the opportunity to overtake corporate compliance because at that time, the government had put corporate compliance into place that organizations had to implement this type of ethical compliance to manage business practices. So,
which is an important part of a not-for-profit like ours, right? To make sure that if anybody there's a hotline that's published and we communicate about that if anybody feels that there's something improper going on, they would notify that. Do residents have that opportunity, or is that other staff or families? Who would make those
I do get calls from residents, but it's primarily a line for families, families and employees as well have the opportunity to reach out.
Can you give an example, not that took place here, and perhaps, but just one? What would a corporate compliance concern look like?
You might get a call from somebody who's very concerned that they got a bill and they didn't get the service, and so they're questioning the veracity of the bill.
So that could be fraud or something on the medical provider's part. Okay.
So it could be a lot of things to that effect. Mostly some calls are related to billing, or it could be not in this organization that somebody might be taking things. Theft is also a very issue of compliance. So these various topics could come up.
And since I'm the administrator, I get a lot of emails from the state, and I'm interested every day that there are doctors that lose their licenses every day.
Yeah.
That this is not an uncommon practice, unfortunately, that there's fraudulent billing practices that go on and so forth.
I get guidance from the Office of the Inspector General every day, and you'll see a lot of people, especially during COVID, with these different types of schemes to try and use that as an opportunity to do fraudulent acts, which is very unfortunate.
So let's talk about COVID just for a second before we get back to your career path. I like to ask people their own personal experience in dealing with COVID. You're a nurse, you understand the science behind a lot of this that some of us don't and really don't want to, but from a clinical standpoint and the biology and things you studied, how has it been for you to manage a pandemic? You learned about it, you've taught about it, but how is it to experience it from a nursing perspective?
I hope it's the only one I ever lived through in my lifetime, I'll be honest. It's been what's been challenging about this pandemic is the unknown. We don't know what it is, how it evolves, how to treat it. There's no vaccine. We don't know how long we're going to continue along this path of masks and social distancing and such. So to me, it's the unknown I find very unsettling.
Now, amongst the things you've done here at the home to help us battle it, aside from coming to work every day, which speaks to who you are as a professional and your character, you're every day doing what you had to do to help support our residents and to help our families feel confident that we were doing all the right things. You worked very hard with Joanne and others to set up a testing center. Maybe you could tell the residents how staff get tested and what you created to help them do that.
So there's executive orders that the governor of the state of New York has put out, and so all staff here at the Hebrew Home, whether they're employees or contract staff, have to be tested once a week. And so in the lower level of the Goldfine Pavilion, we set up a little testing site where it affords the opportunity for staff to come once a week to be tested, and as well as any contract staff or any vendor or anyone that comes on property, they have to be tested. So it's something we have to do, and it's something I see we will continue to be doing for a bit of time yet to come.
So we're into our 15th week of doing it. Staff had to be tested twice a week for about the first 10 of those weeks.
Yes.
Then it went to once a week. And really, that's the only thing that we have in our hands right now to try and control this, right? I mean, the vaccines are are being studied and tested and takes time. Like science doesn't
correct.
happen overnight, but testing is really the best thing we could do.
Testing is the best thing we can do. Testing and for your viewers, hand washing, you can't minimize the benefit of hand washing. You'll see throughout the facility, you'll see signs up. So it's really important that you wash the hands 20 seconds. That is one of the best ways you can protect yourself, and everyone in the facility can protect themselves.
And we've done, I think, 16,000, 17,000, I mean,
I would
an
say
enormous
at the end
number
of
of...
this week, it'll be over 16,000 tests we've done since the beginning. We started this May 20th.
So as you experience the staff caring for you, just know that they can't be on this campus unless they're tested, right? I mean, it's
Yes.
the one level of confidence we have. They're tested at least weekly. And, the numbers of staff positives have diminished
Yes,
tremendously, right?
tremendously.
The state is at a quiet period of time right now, and that's really hoping we stay that way.
Yes, so and as David mentioned, testing is critical, and please be assured that we are doing everything to be sure that every staff member is tested, and those that are not, they're not here. So we want to assure your viewers that we take this very, very seriously to ensure your protection and well-being.
But kind of wild to live through this, right? I mean, it's when for the residents that are here at the home and are being very patient and understanding, and the world is different for them now, and they're seeing families through drive-in visits and FaceTimes and things. Talk a little bit about the outside world, how it is when you walk out, just to paint the picture for our residents, what you see when you walk through the streets, when you go to get food. What's the world like for people that haven't been out there to see it?
The world is very different. If you go into a supermarket, you'll notice there's lines on the floor of a supermarket that you have to do like one-way traffic. There's no, you're not allowed in stores anymore without a mask. I mean, you will be turned away at the door if you don't wear a mask. Even in some instances when I go food shopping in Yonkers, you'll see the Yonkers police outside the door, because I guess sometimes people don't want to oblige wearing a mask, and unfortunately we have to have that type of intervention. It's a very, very different time, and you really take for granted what you had, as you live through this today.
When you watch an old TV show or see a ball game that was on and see people crowded together in a stadium or crowded together in a bar, it seems like another world, right? Because right now everybody's masks are on. Of course, we go off the air, we walk around, we all put our masks back on, and you don't really get to see people's faces anymore. It's quite different.
That's one thing that I think it affects people, is you don't get to see, as David mentions, the whole face. I think that just takes away, because people will smile at you and acknowledge you, and you won't even know it because the mask. Though it's interesting, I do see very interesting masks out there. There are people with actually big smiley faces on the masks, so it's...
Did some put their favorite teams or favorite political candidate? People do all kinds of things.
They're doing all sorts of things. Actually, I also feel sorry for children going back to school. I have a 14-year-old, as I mentioned, and you take for granted going to school, 5 days a week, and the experience of being with your friends, and I really feel bad for young people today who have to go back to these hybrid or socially distanced online learning. I know my youngest does not do well with online learning and really misses that interaction with people. So my heart does break for the young generation.
From a perspective of understanding the science, will it take a vaccine, do you think, Ann, do viruses run their course like this? Do you have any sense of...
You're hearing different information every day. You're kind of hearing that this virus is evolving into different ways. So it's really very hard to know what this virus is going to do. I really don't think anything is going to get back to normal until there is some vaccine, some sort of protection that's on the market. But the best thing people can do is to continually wash hands and continually be tested. And wear your masks, and it's a tough time, so we will all get through this eventually, and we'll definitely have something to tell our own grandchildren and down the road.
Great-grandchildren.
Great-grandchildren.
And I've been sort of impressed by the strength of our residents. The residents that are watching us, that are living here, their patience, their bravery. What's been your impression as you've walked around in the halls and dealt with people?
I think our residents are great. I know this is very difficult for them. It's very hard for them. I appreciate their understanding that it's not the facility, it's just the world that we live in. And unfortunately, the things that we have to do to protect them are not the easiest things, with visitation and, not being able to see their families. So I give them a lot of credit. I give them a lot of empathy and understanding, because I don't know how difficult it is for the residents and their families going through this very difficult time.
Yeah, I think, it's whether it be 9/11 or other things that have happened over time, the stock market collapse in 2008, that I've always found the residents to be the calming force.
Yes.
That they've lived through some things. Those of us that are watching us have been through world wars and things and seen things, and they really are, the rock that we work with.
I mean, I'm sure some of the residents have lived through the pandemic of 1918. So I'm sure we have some residents.
The 19 or 18?
1918.
I thought it was 1919. Can we fact check that?
Okay. Sorry, we have to do a fact check.
I know the Red Sox won the World Series in 1918, but I don't know if the pandemic was that year.
All right, well, it was a long time ago.
It was either 18 or 19, and I'll bet you lunch on it. So I've already lost $25. So anybody wants to send in money, just send it right here. We'll put it in the mail, and we'll reimburse me, because I'm already... So can we edit the tape so that I'm right? And we're not live, are we? Yes. Maybe it's fitting that the Red Sox won the World Series in a pandemic. Maybe that's why they won.
That's a very telling
Maybe there was no
statement.
other team on the other side of the field.
Maybe.
Maybe. Now that's the Ann and I. We have our little...
Oh, we have our...
have our moment. So back to your career path. So
Okay.
corporate compliance, and you do a whole lot more. So why don't you talk about today's world, the kind of things you're involved in?
I mean...
Aside from running a testing center, which you never thought you'd ever be doing.
Well, testing center actually is an important part of compliance,
Yeah.
because we have to comply with this executive order. So a lot of what I do ties under corporate compliance. I work with legal. I do a lot of chart reviews. I work with other colleagues and departments here at the facility, but it all falls under compliance, because we strive very hard to meet and exceed the regulatory standards. And that's my role, to ensure that we do, and which we do every day, every hour. We meet and excel those requirements.
And interestingly enough, for a role like you play, you report to the board of directors in that
Yes.
responsibility. So Dan is our CEO, and you and I work closely together. But when it comes to matters like this, you report directly to our board of directors.
Yes.
And of course, just for those who might not know, the Hebrew Home is a not-for-profit. We're not a privately owned facility. We have a voluntary board of directors that are not compensated but oversee
Yes.
they steward the organization. And areas like you're involved in, they get direct, because they need to make sure that things are done properly. So maybe you could talk about that a bit. Is that nervous for you to go to the board? Do you enjoy that?
Well, I was very nervous when I first started going to the board. It is a bit nerve-wracking, but I think each time I do it, it's not so bad. We do have a board member. We have committees here at the home for quality assurance and for compliance, and we do have a board member participation in those committees. So even from that level, they participate, they give their feedback, they get the minutes, they go to into the board books, and then I have the opportunity to participate in the meetings and bring the board up to date on issues and concerns.
So it's kind of like a checks and balances system, right?
Yes.
To make sure that management is focused on management, and the board can be an overall governance. I mean, it kind of works nicely.
That's the way it's supposed to work. Checks and balances is the perfect way of describing it.
In for-profit homes, of which we're not one, again, I mentioned we're a not-for-profit, it's a very different setup, right? Some are terrific, some aren't so terrific, but they have a very different, they're owners, and they make decisions like they would any business.
Right.
And a not-for-profit is different than that.
Exactly.
San, when you're not doing Hebrew homework, what kind of hobbies and interests would we find that you're enjoying?
I do like to bowl. I'm part of a bowling league.
Are you part of the Hebrew Home Bowling team?
Yes, I am. I'm part of the Hebrew Home Bowling team. So that.
Now that's, we have a softball team, we have a bowling team. I don't think we have any other teams, do we, Wendy? We had a basketball team for a while, but John Cole left, and we have a wiffle ball team, yes. So bowling, and what kind of bowler are we?
I'm an average bowler. I mean, I think my average is like 130. I mean, I've only been doing it for like 2 years.
Do they put the bumpers up so you can't get it into the gutter?
They started with that, because
Did
they
they?
used to go to the next lane.
Okay.
Yeah. But as slowly I improved, and, I think the new glasses helped too.
Are those new glasses we're wearing?
Well, the new lenses.
Okay.
So I wasn't looking cross-eyed.
Good when you're bowling to hit the pins that are in front of you.
Well, when you get close to hitting another bowler on another lane, then you know something's wrong.
I just envisioned Fred Flintstone when he would go with the ball right down the
Twinkle
pins.
toes.
Yes, twinkle toes. You never know what you get on my show. You get a little bit of Flintstones. I lost 25 bucks. A lot could be going on here.
Yes, it's
So other than that, I know, and we joke about it, but you have a voice, which is an important part of. You want to talk about your singing a little bit, and you've done it for the home.
Yes, I've actually studied vocal for 7 years. And speaking about career paths, going back to my mother, I actually wanted to apply for Juilliard. But then the nursing conversation came up again and said, be a nurse. If you're a nurse, you'll always have a job, and you can sing on the side.
And you have sung on the side. You've sung at the annual dinner for the Hebron 4 times, 5 times?
About 4 times I've had the 3 to 4 times I had the privilege. And actually for almost 33 years I was the lead singer in a church, a Catholic church that no longer exists here in the Bronx. So for 33 years I sang 4 to 5 masses every weekend. So
that's my favorite Anne Marie story, because we together were involved in caring for a woman at home, whose name I won't mention for HIPAA reasons, but was a very generous supporter of the home and of many causes, and a religious Orthodox woman. And she got to know you, and she was so fond of you that she went to church. Yes. I think the first time she ever walked into a church. True story, because Anne reminds me of it every single day. She walked into the church to hear you sing, and wanted to tell me that I should be careful to not lose you, because you should be professionally singing.
Yes, so I enjoy singing, so it's a good distraction.
And when we've done overnight softball tournaments and things, you've come and sung. I've heard you sing outdoors. I've heard you sing indoors. In fact, I think you owe me a test singing so we could try and get you to sing for the Westchester Knicks when they go back.
That is correct.
Inside again.
That is right. I forgot about that.
Is it enjoyable singing? Is it nerve-wracking? I mean, what's it like to, you're in the, let's paint you the picture. It was the Waldorf before they knocked it down, or they're remodeling it. They didn't knock it down. Let me not start rumors. They were remodeling the Waldorf. But before they started the remodeling, we had one of our dinners there, which is where we always had it. And you sang in one of the most famous rooms where presidents and heads of state have been. You're looking out over, I don't know, 750,000 people, most prominent New Yorkers, our board members. Nervous?
Well, you do get nervous, but you know, I have to get into a mindset. It's a very different mindset when you have to prepare to get up. Even though it's for less than a minute you're singing, there's a lot of prep that goes mentally, and you have to make sure your voice is in a certain way and you're in a certain state of mind. But when I'm up there singing, I really enjoy it. I get lost in the moment.
So is it like an auto effect? You're not thinking of singing, you're just singing.
I'm just singing. There's because I have to mentally prep, and then once I'm up there, you get lost in the moment. You really do. You sing it, and I enjoy the after when I sing, because there's a lot of people that only see me as the corporate compliance officer. So when I come off the stage, they're like, "But you're corporate compliance. I mean, how can you be singing at the same time?" It just they're so against each other. But it's a great privilege.
And mind you, the Star Spangled Banner is not an easy song to sing, right? I mean, you see people at ballparks and stadiums, and this is not easy.
Yeah. It's a very rangy song. It goes from very low to very high. And again, it's part of the mental prep that I do, just to make sure I know to start on the right key, because it's all a cappella. So there's no one giving me a note. So it's a privilege, and I truly do enjoy it, and it's an honor to be given the opportunity.
Can you correct yourself within it if you start to go off? Is it you go as you go? Because it sounds pretty flawless. So I don't know if you're tinkering while you're doing it.
No, you can't, because it's part of the prep. You have to make sure you hit that first note, because that drives the whole song.
Okay.
So.
And do you sing any more now? I mean, do you have any engagements you do?
No, not right now. It's just singing in the shower, singing in the mirror.
Okay, well, I think that's a good note to wrap up our show.
I sing to my daughter.
And as a guest on my show, you get a pizza. So you'll be presented with a pizza. It's a day of great financial outlay for me. Between the $25 and a pizza, I think I'll be off next Tuesday, so I can save up. But Ann, I want to thank you not only for doing the show, and I didn't get a chance to ask you if you get as nervous to do this as you do to sing, but your dedication to the home, to our residents, is almost 3 decades old, and thank you for
Thank you, David.
all you do. And,
I appreciate that.
And being your colleague has always been a joy and a privilege.
Same here.
Lisa, thank you for running the board for us today and being here and collecting $25 you didn't expect to collect. Catherine, thank you for your many seats. Sometimes you're there, sometimes you're here. So I guess it's a rotation with vacations and all. So thank you for running the camera. Thank you to the residents. Enjoy Tuesday, August 25th. Again, sunny, getting much warmer. Thank you for tuning in. I hope you enjoy the high definition signal that we got going finally. I think the sound is right now too. So we're in good shape. So enjoy your day. And thank you.
Everyone.
My heart is where the Hebrew home